You guys all read the script, right?
Lana, Ramon vouches for them. I vouch for him.
These three were my best friends.
Fuck those guys.
Everybody love everybody!
Hey everybody, welcome to Vouch for Me. The movie of the week is The Lighthouse 2019. I am your host, Eric West. And of course, with me, I have our keeper of the light, Abraham Lincoln.
The light belongs to me.
and our salty, scurvy dog, Papa Nasty. And then we're doing something a little special this week. We have an intern, unpaid of course. We'll see how she does, but we have Kayla with us.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm already not too sure about this one.
We'll be asking her questions along the way. We'll make it easy for her. We're definitely going to have more interns in the future and just see how things play out with them, now that we're building, now we're building an empire. We got to start utilizing our power appropriately. All right, The Lighthouse. What the heck? Robert Eggers, Max Eggers, 2019. We've got Robert Pattenson, Willam Defoe, and Abel saw this movie first and foremost and said, hey, we need to watch it. What the heck? What's up with that? When did you see it? Why did you see it? Tell us why you picked.
I saw it a couple of years ago. I feel like I saw it before COVID, maybe, or maybe after. I cannot recall.
That sounds right. Did you see it in the theaters?
I rented it.
Okay.
But anyways, I can't recall exactly. But anyways, I had seen The Witch, and so I was like, oh, Robert Eggers, I'll check it out. His stuff's pretty cool. And yeah, trippy movie. It just leaves you with a bunch of questions afterwards. But yeah, I like those minimalist stories where it's just two guys yelling at each other in a room.
There we go.
They're just acting their asses off.
Yeah, like me and you when we used to play Mortal Kombat together. So way too on point there. It would be crazy if you watched it during quarantine because, we all had cabin fever during quarantine. So that would have been hilarious.
It's like when Death Stranding came out and people were like, this game is so dumb. It's like you're a delivery man in the apocalypse and you're the only thing that keeps things running. COVID happens. Delivery men are the only people keeping society running. Little did we know Kojima cooked with that game.
Hooked, absolutely. Walking simulator. Everyone loves it. Hey, Papa Nasty, you watched the movie as well. Me and you are kind of in the same boat because we both watched it to prepare for this episode. How did it impact you? I know you kind of did some digging on it after you watched it.
Yes, so I've watched it 4 times. The first time, I was like,
Damn.
What the fuck? Abel, did you just give me this monstrosity? And then the second time I watched it, I appreciate it. First time I did like it. Not that I didn't like it, but I was like, what the... there's so much to this film I don't understand. Rewatched it. Second time, I appreciate it. Third time, really appreciate it. And the fourth time, I have a theory that we can discuss at the end of the film. But no, I really enjoyed this film, and I'm excited to break it down.
I feel like when you were talking about how rewatching it changed your opinion, I feel like it's because rewatching this movie in particular, you really start to notice things you didn't pick up the first time, or just little things that they say or do that foreshadow events later, or just make you think.
Well, can I open up to you guys? Is this a safe place?
Oh yeah, this is a safe place.
The first time I watched it, I was pretty shit-faced. And so with all the scenes that happened, I was like, what the fuck? Abel, what the fuck? And I was like half tempted to text you and be like, dude, what did you...
This sounds like a recurring theme.
What did you text me? Because it was a rough day. I was like, I'm going to watch this, whatever, fucking, let's go. And I thought it was going to be a more serious... Not that it wasn't serious. I thought it was going to be a different angle. But yeah, and I watched it, I was pretty trash, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I rewatched it again. But no, it was a great fucking...
Like what, you thought it'd be scarier or something?
Kind of. I thought a little bit more... I thought there's going to be more people at the lighthouse. Murder mystery. But yeah.
I see where you're going with that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the black and white theme.
It definitely does not play out the way you think it would going into it, honestly, if you think about it.
I didn't expect so many laughs. Rewatching it, the second and third time, how many times I'm laughing, and I'm like, damn, I fucked up watching it the first time, drinking. I should have watched it baked out of my mind, and that would have been fun to watch. But no, it's a great film, dude. I'm fucking so proud to review this.
I remember reading a general consensus that there's only one genuine jump scare in the entire movie, and it pretty much gets everybody.
Which one is it? I think we can say it.
The light belongs to me.
Oh, there we go. Oh, right.
Yeah, at that point, we all thought, like, okay, it's just Robert Pattinson left. And then he just comes out of nowhere with a yell and, like, a scare chord playing. It's, like, the only jump scare in the movie, really, if you think about it.
This movie is technically a horror film, but it does fall more underneath, like, psychological thriller.
Psychological, leaning into cosmic eldritch horror.
And Papa Nasty, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, we can go ahead and lean into that theory of yours already. Dark comedy?
Yes, if you rewatch it.
Fitting, yeah,
Yeah, if
I
you
get it.
rewatch it. Yeah, there's just so many things where I'm like it's. I know it's meant to like throw you off or whatever, but it's surprisingly humorous too. If you're into that darker stuff, but yeah, I was rewatching. I'm like, oh man, this is.
I mean, it makes sense. The opening 5 minutes is just fart after fart after fart.
Yeah, that caught me off guard. That literally caught me off guard.
I mean, I always appreciate a good fart joke, but just some of the wild, random scenes where you're just like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. Just the WGFs. There's just so many of them. And then just if you're, yeah.
I want a steak. I want a bloody rest steak. I mean, if I had a steak, I would fuck
like,
it.
It'll go from like a serious scene.
That's pretty
and it'll
good,
go like
dude.
super dark, or maybe it's like it's.
I cannot do that main accent. I can't. It's really hard to get down.
That's pretty, dude. You kind of were on that. That you leaned right into it. That was pretty darn good. I want to go into it real quick. My experience with the Lighthouse was I knew you had mentioned it before. I had seen The Witch. I heard about The Witch, and my initial interpretation of that movie was, oh, what if nothing was real and it was just like they were tripping balls? But then everyone told me, no, that's not true.
No, in The Witch, like explicitly, like, yeah, supernatural is real.
Yeah, the director comes out and says the supernatural is real. Whereas this movie is, I knew nothing about it except for you don't know whether or not the supernatural is real. And then going in to watch the movie, I didn't even watch a trailer. I didn't read the bio, nothing.
Same.
And then I wish I did, because I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Yeah, me and Poppy and Nasty were in the same boat. I do want to talk about the recap soon, but what did you do? Watch the trailer there, Abel, and you were like, this is going to be great? Or how'd you even...
I can't even remember if I did see the trailer.
You just knew. You just knew.
I remember seeing like the teasers and press for it, like on Twitter, like, here, upcoming movie with Willam Defoe and Robert Pattinson, The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers, and I think they posted a screen cap of the scene of them staring at the camera in the opening scene.
That's cool. Okay.
Or it was like first look at Robert Pattinson and Willam Defoe in the upcoming horror film The Lighthouse.
Okay.
And I love Willam Defoe and Robert Pattinson. I think that's what got me to see it.
They said all the right words. They said all the right words, and you fucking paid the money and you saw the movie. And now we are all in this boat where we aren't as traumatized as our last A24 film, but it's just one of those movies you have to investigate afterwards, because it's like, what the fuck is going on? I do want to dig into some production real quick, because we're going to start talking about the recap soon. Of course, this was directed by Robert and Max Eggers. Max Eggers was Robert's younger brother, and he initially he came up with the idea, he started writing the story, and he pawned it off to his brother Robert because he didn't really have any direction he wanted to go with it necessarily. They actually were planning to do this movie before The Witch, but The Witch took off before The Lighthouse.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. That was pretty wild.
A lot of directors will have like ideas they've cooked up, but due to limitations or whatever, they just have to put it off until they could get around to doing it. Like George Lucas had the prequels planned for a long time, but the technology to animate a droid army didn't exist in the 80s, so he put it off until like CGI became a thing.
That's okay. I know, that's hella interesting. So initially planned The Lighthouse. With the success of The Witch, which is what we were kind of talking about, he had full reins. He can make whatever the hell he wanted at this point. He's like, I'm going to make The Lighthouse. This is mine and my brother's dream. This movie was made for $11 million, and they got $18 million out of it. So not necessarily a success, but they got their money back, and he made what he wanted to make.
Oh, can I add one more thing? Another example of movies that a director came up with but put off. Supposedly AI was Stanley Kubrick's idea, but he couldn't get around to it, so he handed it off to Spielberg.
That's pretty cool. Oh, that's the movie that we were talking about.
Yeah, because I remember they made a joke about it in Epic Rap Battles of History, where the guy who was playing Stanley Kubrick was like, AI was the greatest waste of potential since the Ninja Turtles.
That was the movie that Abel and I were saying we should do at some
Because
point.
Spielberg's version of AI was absolutely definitely not what Kubrick would have fucking cooked up.
That's
Kubrick would have
true.
made a much more fucked up movie or something. But
And
anyways,
that's naturally how that goes. Just running this back. So like I was saying, $11 million. They made $18 million compared to The Witch. The Witch was made for $4 million and they made $40 million.
Jesus.
I remember they like legit built that set out in the middle of nowhere.
He loves to do that. Robert Eggers loves period pieces and he loves building sets just in
On
buttfuck
location.
nowhere. Yeah. Because I don't know where The Witch took place, but this, of course, takes place.
Probably in like, obviously it's in New England and they just went further west because they were exiled from their village or something.
Yeah, but it was definitely on site East Coast. We'll have to do research on The Witch because this one takes place in Maine, but it was filmed in Nova Scotia, Canada.
In another episode.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll do The Witch later.
I'm sure Abel's going to pick it here at some point. So this was, like I just mentioned, takes place in Maine, filmed in Nova Scotia. They built the lighthouse, which was 70 feet tall. They built the barracks and everything there. And when they were done filming, the town wanted to keep it. But they were like, this is a fire hazard. You guys are going to die if you guys start hanging out here. And
Kind of like the Rocky statue.
yeah. Unlike the Rocky statue, which is not flammable and 70 feet of wood. And so they said, all right, we're tearing this shit down. But that town fought to keep that thing alive. So that's the most hilarious thing to me ever. Let's go through just some other random production notes, and then let's talk about the story, because the story is so fascinating. But you can't tell the story without talking about the fact it's in black and white. When's the last time you've seen a movie in black and white that wasn't from the 50s? That wasn't Twilight Zone, you know? In 2019 they released this movie in black and white in like a 1:1. It's not a full screen,
I wanted to see Godzilla minus color.
which they did in black and white as well.
I know. I just wish I could have seen that version.
Yeah, -1, like we can talk about that real quick. They re-released it in black and white just for the hell of it, just to give it that old school feel.
Yeah. You got me thinking, like, what is like the actual legit last black and white film I saw?
Yeah, all I can think about is Twilight Zone. All those episodes. I mean, it's not even a movie though. I'm sure I haven't seen an actual movie in black
I'm
and
pretty
white.
sure I've seen one since, but I'm just thinking of Casablanca. It's probably my favorite classic film.
That one's in black and white, and I've heard it's worth watching. I've also heard
It's
Citizen
amazing.
Kane. Citizen Kane's worth watching.
Citizen Kane is a different beast entirely. A lot of people will say it's really boring, but I don't know. I found it interesting, but yeah, it's not for everyone. Casablanca, I would definitely recommend over Citizen Kane, unless you're like a film snob who wants to study film history, then watch Citizen Kane.
Cool.
But also, if you watch Casablanca, you're gonna realize that there are so many quotes and lines you've seen from every sitcom and movie you've ever seen, all come from that movie.
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
What is Robert De Niro's iconic film? The Iron
Taxi
Bull?
Driver, Raging Bull.
Raging Bull. That's the last black and white film I saw.
Damn, you guys win. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything under my belt. Damn, I'm embarrassed. All right. Twilight Zone, but it's not a movie. So like I was saying, this was shot 1:19:1 format, but it was to make it feel like that period piece, to make it feel like it was from the 1900s. They did it on 35 millimeter. They used special cameras with that 1940s vintage lens. And those were actual authentic lenses that they used for the accurate depiction. He also had commissioned similar lenses that were more modern, and so there are certain points in the theme when there's in the movie where there's more action, or maybe there's something they want to enforce, and it was just it was a better lens. It looked great, so it was just crazy. He went above and beyond. Robert Eggers is I don't know. I feel like he's a goddamn psychopath when it comes to period pieces, and I've heard he's doubled down and said he's only doing period pieces when he does Nosferatu, which is probably one of his next big projects.
Oh, you see the trailer for it?
I haven't.
There's already a trailer for it, dude. That looks fucking good.
What?
I'm kind of tempted to not watch it just so I could go into that movie completely blind.
Yep, I want to go in blind.
All right. Well, we're going to review that film, guys. We're going to have to go see it.
Yep. The whole time I'll be like, where's SpongeBob? What's going on? Our first introduction to Nosferatu, like unbeknownst to us, that random episode of SpongeBob.
Yeah, I remember seeing a meme about how, like, why is SpongeBob's, like, sense of humor, like, the show, not SpongeBob himself? Like, why is the show's sense of humor just built around, like, old school Hollywood jokes that nobody possibly could get except these kids' parents, maybe?
Or their grandpas. Yeah. Yeah, the original stuff, and then it changes later. But yeah, absolutely. Nosferatu looks like it's going to be cool. Okay, so the lighting in this movie was insane. I think Papa Nasty, you knew about the lighting in this, didn't you?
No, you must have been mistaken.
Oh, okay. I think you were telling me about the lamps at least that were they look like traditional kerosene lamps, but
It sounds like this is leaning into the theme of the movie, the gaslighting. Are you gaslighting Papa Nasty, or is Papa Nasty gaslighting you?
I think I'm being gaslit right now.
You told me about the lamps, right? No, I didn't.
You were barking at me mad.
Chasing me around with an axe, and then you destroyed the boat.
Rob.
No time to lose your head left.
But the lamps that look like kerosene lamps are actually extremely
The
bright.
quarters are dire.
Everything in this movie is extremely bright to the point that the actors themselves they could barely see each other when they were performing, and the crew would have to wear sunglasses because it was the only way to shoot it so accurately.
So, ironically, we are both struggling to watch the film and see everything, and so are they. Or at least the scene.
Damn cool. Okay, respect. I like that. One of the biggest themes of this movie is they are going crazy. They don't know who to trust. Also, we don't know who to trust, and we're being driven crazy because we're like, what the fuck is going on in this movie?
Yeah, what's real, what's not real?
Who do we believe?
Why does Abel keep going to the shed house? We don't know.
Prone to self-abuse in the supply shed.
I found Papa Nasty out on the docks, covered in some seaweed. It was pretty interesting, but we don't talk about it. But so the weather in the movie takes place on an island, and they get destroyed by weather. What's so funny is half the time the weather was actually torrential like that, and then the other half the time Robert Pattinson's like, man, it felt like I was being sprayed by a fire hose, and Robert Eggers comes out and he's like, oh, I was actually spraying you with a fire hose. So,
Oh, shit.
yeah, exactly. He didn't even know. That's the most funny thing. The dialect, the reason this movie's so fun to quote is because Eggers actually studied a bunch of literature with that weird maritime, surrealistic sounding speech that was in the Lighthouse.
The period accurate language.
So period accurate. He was going into stuff by Herman Melville, all these names I haven't heard, but H.P. Lovecraft, of course.
I started reading Moby Dick, and it is hard to read because it's in that super, like, maritime old English of not old English, but it's more like of the time, and I'm just like, I can't understand what half these words actually mean because they mean something completely different today or whatever, or these words don't even exist the way I read them now.
It's crazy that you do develop a good understanding of this movie, even though half the thing that Willem Dafoe says, you're like, what is he saying?
I think that's also intentional because Robert Pattinson's character is like, I don't even know what the fuck you're saying half the time. So it might be intentional in the movie.
Yeah, when you see like Defoe's character go on like a tangent about like a sea story,
He just rolls his eyes and ignores them.
Yeah, you see his face like, oh fuck, here it goes.
Yeah, so it's probably period accurate, but it's also probably like not typical language spoken because he's a landlubber and Willem Dafoe's a seaman. So you're like, this guy's talking in a way I don't fucking understand.
Yeah,
That's fucking
Sailor Boy
awesome.
meets City Boy.
Sailor Boy meets. I love that. That's a good way to put it. That's actually the most accurate way to start this before we go into the recap itself. One more thing I want to point out is these two guys they're Lighthouse wikis. They're out on this island. They're ridiculous conditions. How do you survive in this? Willem Dafoe's character has done this time and time again. He's been a sailor, allegedly, and then he was a Lighthouse wiki. I heard that in the 1890s, these men, sailors, also frontiermen, were the original superheroes. People would tell stories about them, and it was like they'd be grandiose masculinity, and everyone would think they're so fucking cool because they can survive in these elements.
The reality is all they did was just spend their days drinking inside because it's too dangerous outside.
Drinking inside, yeah, just getting trashed, like just spending time with dudes as like the sailors were and stuff. And so, that like there was a lot more secret, lust amongst men towards men than anyone would have wanted to recognize in the 1890s when this movie took place.
Romance readers would call that the forced proximity trope.
There it is. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, you guys ready for this? Okay, production aside, everything aside, now we have to talk about the damn movie. I don't know who wants to do it first, but somebody give me a quick rundown of this film. Then we'll try to fill in some of the stuff we missed, but you give me beginning to end, quick and easy. What the hell is The Lighthouse 2019 about?
Ryan Gosling with the Notebook. You want up, Mr. Notes?
Oh, that's a good one.
Mr. Notes.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling, the Notebook, because I got the notes.
What? You got the notes. How about you lead it, and then I'll jump in. I'll help out. But
Okay, yeah, I'll give a little spiel a little bit, and then you could fill in a little.
yeah, you fill in the general stasis, whatever, and then I'll jump in with some little key things that I put in my notes.
No, okie dokie, Mick.
You say "I, sir." I, sir.
Yeah.
Aye,
Where's
sir.
There it is. That's what I want to hear.
All right, so the movie opens with the ominous foghorn. Fog can't see anything. What the hell is going on here? And then, and so we just get just a lot of silence, no dialogue exchanged between anybody in the opening, like what, say 5 minutes, give or take.
Easily.
We get that eerie stare off into the drift.
Yeah, we see our two leads staying next to each other on the bow of the ship. They show up to work, ready to get to work at the lighthouse. We see the old crew getting ready to leave. I was watching that scene again on YouTube, and I also noticed it on my review, but the comments also helped me like nail it. There's no words exchanged between our guys and the other guys leaving. They just kind of just walk past each other. Very odd.
That's what I would do when I hate my fucking job. So respect.
But they also said notice how the wikis that are leaving are helping each other carry boxes. Meanwhile, old and young here are just doing their own thing. They're not helping each other at all. They're just walking separately.
That is a good point.
So we're getting a little introduction on their work relationship.
I did want to throw in, you're referencing some of the things people have pointed out in the script, as opposed to giving them their names that we learn in the movie. They're referred to as old and young, which is meant to establish their power dynamic, which we'll delve into more later.
And also because they have no names until revealed later in the movie.
There we go. And the other thing in the script that's not in the movie is they describe the lighthouse as a big old penis. So
Yes, the director said the symbolism for the lighthouse is an erect boner, if I recall correctly.
yeah. And there's a scene later where they really capitalize on it. But as you were there, Abraham Lincoln.
Eric, your intern, is doing the YMCA. What's going on? Oh, she's just stretching, doing yoga.
She's just entertaining you guys. Don't worry.
Do we pay her to do yoga while we're doing this? What?
We don't pay her at all.
Salute the sun.
If you keep mentioning payment, she's going to ask for payment.
Or is she just doing her thing of a lighthouse?
You could just put in the log that you recommend she not get paid.
You're not wrong. All right. I appreciate that.
Dock 10 shillings.
Assistant is missing.
All right. Abel, quick and painless recap. Fire it off. No fluff. Just rough.
Yeah. All right. So they show up, they get ready for work, and then we kind of just alternate between during the day we see Young working, doing his duties. Meanwhile, Old locks himself into the lighthouse and just does nothing the entire time, and then he berates him daily for not doing his work, even though we are led to believe that Young is working. He's busting his ass. And then come dinner time every other night, Old tries to act like, oh, hey, we're friends, buddy. Like, cheers with me. And, like, he's really not about it. And we just kind of watched how their relationship changes over the course of time. And Young seems to just slowly be going crazy. Maybe Old was crazy, too. It's hard to tell. And before it all just comes to a freaking head. And they actively start trying to kill each other. More so Young trying to kill Old, but yeah.
It doesn't help they missed their boat. The day they're only there for 4 weeks, and the final day when there's...
Did they, though?
here it is. They were there for 4 weeks, and the boat likely couldn't have gotten to them. I don't think they missed the boat. I think the boat would have dropped some people off.
I don't think they missed the boat. They were just stuck there by the storm.
They were stuck there by the storm, and then they start really going nuts.
And that's where Old starts gaslighting him, where he is like, how long have we been here? He was like, it's only been 1 day since we missed the boat. And he's like, no, it's been weeks. Like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah. And that's the whole what you call it, like what, the unreliable narrator? You don't know who to believe.
Yeah, we're mostly seeing the movie from Young's POV, or at least with him. And so, yeah, it's hard to know whether he's sane and Old is crazy, or they're both crazy, and we don't know whether to believe what we're saying.
But they're trapped on their island, and then
shit happens.
Shit happens.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, it all comes to a head with Young killing Old and ascending the lighthouse, finally finding out what's going on in the lighthouse because Old never wanted him to see the light. And he experiences the light for the first time. He has just this crazy...
He becomes obsessive over it, too, as he's being denied more and more.
And he finally sees it, and, you know, everything, you know, he just starts screaming. The light gets brighter than it has ever been in this whole movie. Even the audio starts distorting, and he falls to the bottom of the lighthouse, and then
he dies, question mark.
He dies, question mark. And then you just get this very artistic scene of Robert Pattinson laying out on a beach, being eaten by seagulls, like some kind of Prometheus homage. And then the freaking movie ends. But the discussion does not end, because there is a million things to talk about in this film besides two guys work on an island for 4 weeks. They get stranded there. They go fucking insane. They drink themselves into oblivion. One of them kills the other, and the other one kills himself. Who knows what happened?
And there's also a lot of homoerotic subtext in there.
Oh, yeah. This movie is hella gay. Literally very homoerotic. It was a big theme of this movie. And I don't mean that in any sort of facetious sense. It is very gay.
Which is ironic because Abel picked this film during Pride Month. So, good job, Abel.
Good job.
Yeah.
I wish they could have been more honest with themselves and each other about it. Because now let's talk about themes. We were talking about Young and Old. Robert Pattinson plays a character known as Ephraim Winslow, and later it's revealed that in his previous job working the timber, he either murdered his boss or let his boss die, and then he stole his identity, and then went off on a boat to... I like the way that even Old says it. Old's name is Thomas Wake in this film. That's Willam Defoe, and he kind of is sussing him out. He's like, oh, okay, so what are you trying to get away from things? Oh, maybe you're running from the law? And he's like, no.
He picks up on that very early in the movie when he's asking, what's a timberman doing out working, trying to get work as a wiki? And he's just trying to say, like, oh, it's just good money. That's why I'm here. And he was like, you could make good money doing anything else. Why are you here? Normal working men don't actively go to become Lighthouse wikis. It's a shitty job.
Exactly. And throughout the movie, the whole time, I'm like, why the hell would you guys ever do this?
You know, as they say, it's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. All right, guys, you got some themes you want to throw out before we start talking interpretations? Because there's a handful of them in this here film. And I think our intern has a few things to join in too, because she pointed out to me that this movie doesn't do a traditional 3-act structure, and instead it very likely takes a 5-act tragedy structure. Do you guys want to hear more about that?
Sure.
I know. Pretty good.
No. Let's go. Let's hear it.
I'll pass.
No.
That's so fun.
Right,
Never mind. Go back. Never mind. No one wants to hear. I'm just joking. All right. Anyways, Kayla, you got the floor.
No,
I know. You just
she's
like
got
the
her
giant
notes.
note.
All right. Yeah.
She's got the notes.
She's got the notes.
Short and sweet. So the 5-act tragedy format is the introduction. So that would be the introduction to the characters, the setting, the rise and the rising tension or action, to the climax, return, fall, and then ending in catastrophe, not necessarily resolution.
I can already draw the lines in the movie where I see where those lie.
Okay, so let's go through that then. Introduction, of course, naturally. We see the characters, we see the setting. What do you think that the rising action would be, I guess, before the initial climax? Because it's weird because the climax takes place halfway through the film.
I'd say it's right where they start getting to where, Young starts getting to work and stuff, and he keeps looking at the lighthouse.
That's how Kayla had put it as well. The climax, I feel like, is of course when the boat doesn't show up.
Yeah, I'd say it's about there or like right before that, like when they're getting to the last days of work.
And then obviously the return or the fall is when they are starting to truly go mad.
Binging. When they're binging.
And then the catastrophe. So as opposed to a
Murder.
3-act structure, as opposed to a 3-act structure where there's a resolution, there's catastrophe at the end of this tragedy. So applause, dude, seriously applause to our intern for digging that one up. Good job.
Not bad.
Not bad. All right. Even Papa Nasty he was like, ooh, interesting. All right.
I don't sound like that, but okay.
So that's a fun way to look at it, but big themes that stood out to you in the film, I guess. If you guys have anything.
Right now I can't think of any themes at the moment, but I was thinking about like little bits of foreshadowing. But during one of their like bonding nights while they're drinking or talking, I think it was like as they were getting ready to quote unquote leave because the boat was coming. And Old talks about how like, I've grown fond of you, Ephraim Winslow. For a minute there, I thought you're gonna try and split me head open.
Good foreshadowing.
What happened there?
What happened there?
Later, when that actually does happen, prior to that, when he's throwing Thomas Wake into the open grave and burying him alive, we discussed how like he's possibly like an allegory or even just the real life version of Proteus, the servant of Poseidon, I think.
Yeah, son of Poseidon, but nonetheless servant of Poseidon, yes.
So I was listening to his little speech while he's like burying him alive. And so I read a thing about how like Proteus is a servant of Poseidon. And if you capture him, he will basically tell you your future. And he was basically telling him as he's being buried alive, like, you will be cursed, blah, blah, blah. And then he brings up Prometheus. He basically laid out the ending of the story as he's being buried alive.
That's cool. Also, since you're talking about that scene, holy crap, that's an incredible scene, right? Great job, Willam Defoe.
Talking while he's getting covered in dirt and shit.
Getting dirt in his mouth. Chewing on the dirt while he's doing the speech. That was I was so taken aback by that.
I like the commitment that he seems to be like too broken and weak to actively try and brush the dirt out of his face or fight being buried alive. The restraint to just hold himself down and just say his lines as he's being covered in dirt.
Yeah. I have a few notes on the inspiration for the film, which helps.
One very last thing.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Right after that, when Robert Pattinson, Tommy Howard, goes back inside to grab a smoke, that's a callback to when he admitted to like either murdering or letting his boss, Ephraim Winslow, die. And he said the first thing I could think of was, I need a smoke. What does he do after trying to kill Wake? He lights up a cigarette. And also, when Wake comes in and attacks him with the axe, he's not covered in dirt.
So it might have been a figment of Pattinson, young Tommy Howard's imagination.
Yeah, and that lends credence to the theory that we could probably talk about either now or later, that was any of this real?
Was Wake a ghost? That's another theme. Like either he was dead the whole time or he dies at some point in the film and he's quote unquote tormenting Pattinson, but it's really Pattinson, psychologically, he's just fucked up in the head, which
there is
wild.
That part where he is gaslighting him when they realize they've been there for a long fucking time, and he's like, do you even know if I'm real? If this island's real? Maybe you're just wandering the Canadian wilderness, frostbitten.
Pattinson calls him a parody. He says everything you say, it's like it's not a real sailor. It's like you're a parody of a sailor.
Yeah, it's like he's a caricature ripped out of a book of what a sailor acts like. He's like, there's no way you are genuinely like this.
And that's the director nodding to the audience, like, you think you got this figured out? You think you got this figured out? No, fuck you. I know what you think this was about. No. Like, I can't believe they did that to us. Literally, he's like, you think I gave you all the puzzle pieces? And then he went and he just started ripping the puzzle pieces up on you. Okay, so inspiration for this film, there's a handful of things. The very initial inspiration for this film was a poem that was began by Edgar Allan Poe before he died. and it was called The Lighthouse, and it began as a series of journal entries by the wiki there, who was clearly slowly going insane and succumbing to both boredom and just, isolation. So you can't tell me that's not the most accurate fucking theme in the world.
I was also gonna say, like, is there a recurring theme here of people who were like, I started this work and I couldn't finish it? Because you're talking about how, like, this movie was initially started by one of the Eggers and then just handed it off to the other one.
Yeah, Max began it and then handed it off. That's a good point. Yeah, this movie is cursed.
Maybe that's why no one got an Oscar for it.
Oh, do you think that someone deserved an Oscar for this movie?
Any one of them, really. They both acted their asses off.
Bro, the seagull. Best bird I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. Sully the seagull. Yes.
I think Pop Nasty, you want to talk about the seagull? Yeah, you know some stuff about the seagull.
just his name and that he's a part of the cast crew. Like, he's like...
Nuh-uh.
He's credited?
Yeah, Sully the seagull. And he's like, turning his head like, hey guys.
Was that a real seagull?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
That's
A well-trained
cool.
seagull.
That's a trained
It goes-
seagull.
So when I go to Google Cast, it goes William Defoe, Robert Pattinson, the Mermaid Chick, Ephraim Winslow, Wiki, two of the more people, and then Sully the Seagull. He's like, hey, don't forget about Sully.
Sully. That's great. I didn't know that. That's amazing. Sully the seagull.
Speaking of the seagull, it made me think of, yep,
Sorry, Sully, he has an IMDb.
IMDb.
IMDb. I no fucking way. And an Instagram.
What else? What else has he? What else has he been in? Was he in anything else? Airbud 7 Surfs Up. Was he in Rio by any chance?
He was not, but he was in the breakout movie star Vulture. Best of 2016. I'm trying to look at the movies he's been in. But yeah, no, he's been in a few films.
Wow,
What the
that's
fuck?
that's a Patreon episode and a half right there. Sully the seagull. Who knew?
So who is Sully the Seagull? Let's go.
Abel, you're gonna say something about the seagull there.
So not specifically him, the seagull, but I was thinking. So when I rewatched the movie, I was when Winslow is filling himself a cup of water and sludge is just coming out, so he goes to check the cistern and finds the dead gull dying gull in the cistern.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, wasn't this thing covered with like a heavy ass metal door? Where is it? Suddenly that thing is uncovered. I was just wondering, like, maybe this is evidence that he's actually neglecting his duties. I don't know.
I believe those. No, okay. So I think those are actually two different scenes. That one's the cistern. The cistern is open for some weird reason. I don't understand why it may collect rainwater. But then the other thing was where they put the. Oh no, I'm full of shit. You're right. I think there's a door that's not there.
No, it was that scene is immediately after he goes to fill up some water and sludge comes out. So earlier in the scene, he gets that giant bag and he's dumping stuff into the cistern. I looked it up and apparently that's iodine powder. It was supposed to disinfect the water. That's just standard procedure for the
But
cistern.
there was a door on it.
There's a giant metal door that keeps it covered so animals couldn't get into it. But yeah, when he goes out to check it, that door's nowhere to be seen. The cistern is just exposed to the elements and there's a dying gull in the water contaminating it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why was it so sludgy. I mean, of course they make it in the movie where you can't really tell on purpose, but
Yeah. I don't know. That cistern clearly has seen better days.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I was wondering, where the fuck did the door go?
Could that mean that he's just not a reliable...
Yeah, that's it could lend credence to the unreliable narrator thing and how Thomas Wake was saying he's neglecting his duties. He thinks he's doing his job, maybe he's not.
The first time he calls him out is you didn't mop the floors, and then he goes on this whole power trip about it, and you kind of think, what a fucking douchebag, but it's like...
At the same time, did we ever see him mop the floors? We see him do everything else.
That's true. And he even tried to backtrack too. He tried to say, I didn't come here to do woman's chores or something like that. And then
I'm not going to be no housewife. I didn't come here for some fucking... Yeah.
that's pretty good, dude.
Yeah.
I feel like you got the
Some
accent down.
shandy,
The
some
king,
shandy
the
house.
king of the royal servant to the Queen of England
Even
couldn't
the
have done
royal
no better than I
housekeeper
have.
couldn't fucking keep this clean. What he's like freaking out. Yeah. No, so that scene I thought also meant when he freaks out on Winslow, or he's like reasserting his dominance because prior to that, didn't he smack Winslow? And he's like it's bad luck to kill a bird.
Yeah.
To kill a seabird.
And
I
then
thought that was him
randomly
taking-
just smacks him up the head. Yeah, that's wild.
I mean, not randomly, just more of just like, hey, like it's
It
a
was
bad
an
luck thing.
impulse thing. He did not think about it. He just did it on impulse as soon as he heard him say like superstitions or like tall tales.
Which that also confirmed to me that he might have been a sailor, because he was like, hey, like that's a like any other person would be like, oh, like that's bullshit. But like for him to know that, it's like, okay, he had to be, maybe he wasn't as much of a, you know,
Took
badass
major
sailor that
offense to it.
yeah, as he was, but he knows he worked the docks, whatever bullshit.
Yeah, he was extremely superstitious, and it's not just I believe in this. It's I'm gonna assault you because you're completely wrong. That's a good point.
You're gonna curse us both with your negligence type of like fear.
That is a way to put it. Damn.
Something that I wanted to talk about. I wasn't too sure we're going to do the structure, but since we're kind of doing it this way,
We're kind of hopping all over. Yeah, go for it.
Winslow, he gets himself cursed not once, not twice, but 3 times by breaking the toast, by not drinking and pouring out his cup, by killing the seabird, and then also when Wake curses him.
Oh,
I was also going to mention there's another one you may have forgotten. The mermaid statue, supposedly, when he broke it.
Oh, 4th time, yeah. Breaking of the
Yeah.
mermaid statue, which is, I think we talked about this off air, was that the mermaid statue is actually, they're supposed to be, when you have one, they symbolize protection, guidance, and what he does is he breaks it after masturbating.
I remember he later, like, tries to, like, tell Wake that he thinks, like, the mermaid figurine was, like, a hex or something, and that's what drove the previous wiki mad. And, like, you mean, like, you're driving yourself mad right now? He's like, I'm free of you and your designs, and then he starts clapping hysterically.
Which, that brings me to another theory, that the lighthouse does cause you to be mad, possibly, to certain people, right? So
To the
we
weak-minded.
see- To the weak-minded, because we see that old and young, there's that conversation that they might be the same person, old and young.
Yeah.
They also are both psychopaths. They are both possibly killers. We know that Winslow's a killer. We know that Wake may have killed his previous wiki. And we see that they both are unreliable, and they both like are just always creeping on each other.
Yeah, meanwhile, the previous wikis look like well-adjusted peel because they left without any problems.
So what if the light does affect those who are prone to it? Kind of like in Bird Box. You know, when it's like, certain people can see it, but only the fucked up. And the other people that see it, they kill themselves. Like, what if the light doesn't fuck with you unless you have that gene or whatever that's in your DNA?
I mean, once again, that could make it like an eldritch horror, which is one of the many interpretations of this film. If it was an eldritch horror, that would kind of lend some credence to this theory.
And the only reason why it affected Winslow so much is that because he already killed. And maybe that Wake's second previously wasn't prone to be like that, but over time we see working with Wake and how he much likes to fuck with you and gaslight you, and he's not holding his own, that it just broke his second over time.
I remember he kind of foreshadows most of the movie of how Winslow/Howard goes mad, because he describes how the previous second went mad, how he obsessed over the light, and blah, blah, blah. And pretty much like Winslow does beat for beat what he described.
And that leads
Yeah.
to another theory. Are you guys
But
ready
we
for the
do
next?
see that.
The Eric Show.
Go ahead, and then
it's
I'll...
the Eric Show.
When
It's
we're
the
ready,
Eric
no,
Show.
when we're ready for the next theory, we'll knock you out of the park. But continue. I want to hear your theory, and then there's more theories. There's plenty of theories. You have to understand. There's a lot of theory. All right. Anyways, I'm not gonna bring that back.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
No, but we do see that it does turn Winslow like crazy, but also Wake is not fucking up to par either. He's fucking naked in the light. He's
jerking
jerking
off.
it. He has like he's jerking off to the light. He's fucking. You see a tentacle in there. Like, what's going on with that?
He's
what does that
cheersing
symbolize?
it to ye and me beauty.
Yeah, so in that scene, was it jerking him off? Was it going inside him? Was it symbolizing his giant wiener? Like, what did you guys think of that scene? That scene kind of fucked me up.
What, the tentacle?
The tentacle, yeah.
I thought it was foreshadowing that he's actually Proteus or something.
So let's lend a little bit of insight to the audience. While things are still coherent, if you will, at the very beginning of the movie, you have Robert Pattinson doing his duties, and he's having some weird dreams, but nothing too weird's going on quite yet.
Yeah, nothing's going on the island itself. It's
until
just
the
him.
dead of night, when he finally decides to go up and see what Willem Defoe does during the night shift. And it's a super bright light. As soon as he gets up there, he sees like goo dripping through, which we could assume is semen, but it's a lot of goo and it's very thick in its viscosity. And so I like to imagine that it could be weird tentacle liquid.
Like
and then
mucus?
as you're
We
thinking
do
about
see a tentacle.
as you start thinking about mucus, you see a tentacle scurry across the ground. And this is prior to Patterson being completely insane. And so, but also it's the dead of night. So what if he's dreaming
And
about
the scene
this?
doesn't go anywhere because immediately after that, we just cut to the next day.
But also Patterson starts acting funny because he saw something he shouldn't have. And he does start acting weird. And Willem Dafoe notices he starts acting weird. And so we realize it wasn't a dream.
Well, hold on a sec. So during right before that scene, though, we had seen that Winslow couldn't sleep. He had forgotten something in the lighthouse, and he was tossing and turning, and that's when he's like, "Shit, I got to get up." And he went.
It
to
was
go
his
get it.
cigarette pouch, I believe.
Yeah, so he gets up to go get it, and then that's when he sees, because so I had the captions on while watching this film, and during that scene when he's like creeping up, watching a weight getting down or whatever.
Babbling.
You hear babbling. You say the title or the caption say "wake moaning," which is like, what? I mean, he's doing something. Something's getting done to him. I don't know. That's up for your interpretation.
That light just be hitting different, okay?
Yeah. It's got those angles.
I was gonna like bring up that whole the arguments, like, so people like to theorize maybe Winslow Howard died when he fell off the side of the lighthouse because the truly weird shit and narrative shifts start happening right after that in the movie. It's not when he kills the seagull, it's like when he falls off the lighthouse.
Since we're going to discuss that, can I tell you the other thing that this movie was inspired by? Okay, so there is what's referred to as the Smalls Lighthouse in Wales, and originally there was only 2 wikis on every island for every job, and then later after this incident they made it 3 because of what happened. And so what had happened was there was 2 wikis that often fought. And so they were known for fighting, and it was just the 2 of them left on this island. Well, one of them dies due to weather conditions. And the other guy was like, I can't just dump him in the sea. They're going to think I murdered him. And so he builds a coffin for him, puts the guy in the coffin, puts him out on the lighthouse. But then the horrible weather blows away the coffin, and the dude just out there on the rails, just kind of like looking crazy. And then people were trying to come to the lighthouse to save this guy, but they couldn't because the weather was so bad. And all they could kind of see was this like person waving at them or beckoning them. And it was the dead dude blowing around in the lighthouse. Whereas the other guy was stuck there for literally months and went absolutely insane, that to the point where he came back to his family, they said he was physically and mentally a completely different human being. And so after that, they made it so that way there would be 3 wikis from there on out in the event something like that happened. And so this movie is like, it could be an example of the last time any 2 wikis would go out, but also it took place in the 1890s, whereas I think I think that incidents took place in the 1900s. So it could have just been one of many examples of 2 people going insane on an island, because I feel, dude, Eggers does his research. This guy does not mess around. But I would say so drawing that connection to the movie, I like to imagine, is one of them dead the whole time? Is one of them insane? Who's dead? Is it Pattenson?
Who's dead? Who's real? You decide.
Epic ghost stories of history.
Yeah, like also going back to like that whole like fibbing, unreliable narrator thing, prior to him being dropped off the lighthouse, fucking Wake is telling him to stop flailing, and we clearly see that Howard is not flailing. He's just swaying because dude's not dropping him very softly. And then I remember mentioning how, he falls off the side of the lighthouse, and what does Wake do? No, he just goes to log something in the book, probably saying like, oh, he's shirking his duties again. I recommend he not get paid. Like, he just left him out there?
Yeah, because at the end of the movie, Pattinson finds the logbook, and it turns out that Willem Dafoe was talking shit about him the whole time, even though he was supposed to have been making high marks in his logbook, because them are gospels.
Them are gospels.
Or was he?
He was talking shit the whole time. What a guy. The power dynamic. That's another huge theme of this movie.
No, what I mean is, like, was he talking shit about him, or was Robert Pattinson actively shirking his duties like he said he was?
Oh, true. That's a good point.
Because when he brings up the logbook, like, I wrote down, like, the list of offenses that he...
Cool. Okay.
That he actually listed. Yeah, I actually, like, decided to do my Ryan Gosling impression. I got my notebook.
Let's go!
Hey,
Papa Nasty's
about
got us on the
time.
notebook. We better do that movie at some point.
Assistant slept late.
It's a good
Work
movie.
below standard. Attitude hostile. Assistant missing. Drunk on duty. Given to self-abuse in the supply shed. Assault. Theft. Recommend severance without pay. And, like, all those things, like, can't necessarily deny him. Like, we have actively seen he was guilty of most of those things.
And think about the order of events, too. The last thing he said was theft, right?
Yeah.
And that was when he takes the kitchen knife or the knife over dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tells him that's out of your pay. That's deducted from your pay.
But that means that all those other things happened before that. And that's kind of before things started
And
getting
he
out
was
of
also
hand.
fully aware of all those things, too. He wasn't slick.
Pattinson thinks he's all sneaky, but it was super obvious. He was out there beating it in the shed, neglecting his duties. Even though all we see is him doing his duties, and then like at night he's kind of like goofing off.
Yeah, but given that he's clearly crazy by the end of it, do we know if he was crazy the entire time? Like, how do we know everything that preceded those events actually happened the way he thought they did?
What if it was purgatory the whole time and Wake doesn't even exist? What if Wake is just a projection of Thomas Howard's subconscious? That's another theory too. And the reason there's some credence that's lent to that one is, when do they interact? They interact in the morning, at night, or when they're drunk. Those are the only times you see those two guys together. Pretty interesting.
Wait, say that again? What do you mean?
Okay, yeah, exactly. I love it.
Let's go.
So, what if he's in some kind of purgatory? It doesn't have to be like a true purgatory. It could be a mental purgatory. It could be thematically a purgatory. But the point is, Wake does not exist. Wake is just a representation of his Thomas Howard's subconscious. And so, all the times he's getting criticized, you think, oh, what a piece of shit. He keeps criticizing his predecessor. No, it's Howard criticizing himself because he feels like a piece of garbage for murdering his lover, quote unquote, maybe lover, maybe ex-boss, who knows. And it lends it because later he calls him a parody. It's like, maybe it's because when he was out in the timberland, he read stories about sailors. He built this idea in his brain, and Thomas Wake doesn't exist. Why is his name Thomas Howard? Why is the other guy's name Thomas Wake? Maybe it's because he doesn't exist and he experiences him when he's awake, quote unquote.
Maybe it's because it's a dream and he needs to wake up.
There's so many. Yup. There's so many. Yeah, they're all those. A big theme of this movie, too, is, of course, the power dynamic between superiors and their underlings. Basically, old, just because he has some experience under his belt, he gets to treat young like shit because he was treated like shit, kind of thing. And that's a pretty big dynamic. But at the end of the day, it's just two dudes on an island dealing with the same situation. They should just be hand in hand. They should be friends. They should be like the two wikis at the beginning of the movie who left carrying a trunk together. But instead, they constantly are carrying their own bullshit apart until Pattinson finally spills his beans. And instead of them dealing with the issue together, they're constantly at each other's throat.
Why'd you spill your beans?
Why'd you spill your beans?
I was watching closely that scene again where he's basically admitting everything about the real Ephraim Winslow. and I noticed like dude had a fucking teardrop actually rolling down his face as he's like admitting all those things.
Do you think they were lovers?
No, what I think is Tommy had lustful affections for Winslow and he did not know how to process them. So he did what any like person who doesn't know how to deal with their feelings do, they act out.
And then he just does the same thing here.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Because what happens when he almost tries to make out with Wake? They get into a fight.
They get into a quote unquote, they instead of making out, they're like, let's do the other physical thing that's okay to do amongst men.
Yeah, no, they push each other away at first, and then they bring out their fists, and then they brawl for a second, then they're all good again.
But also, Wake is throwing out certain things where he knows there's something with Winslow that Winslow might be homosexual, because we see that when Winslow tells him he's done jobs he's not proud of, you see Winslow's reaction change a little bit, and then later on he asks him like, "Oh, what you're pretty as a picture," and all that stuff, and then we see that there's certain scenes where, like for instance, like the gutter scene or the shingle scene, where he's changing out the shingles. Wake knows he's going to be cleaning the shingles. Why else would he be sleeping ass up, his butt flap open, and him pleasuring himself without Winslow seeing it? And then, I don't know, to me it was like teasing him or testing him.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, think about it. 1890s, Wake is an experienced sailor. He's got to fully explore any of his urges towards men and everything. Whereas Pattenson, Thomas Howard, he's really just hiding it. He doesn't want to like come out about it. And it makes sense. It's the 1900s. You try to like bring up that sort of shit and like, you're going to be ridiculed for it and exiled type deal. Maybe Winslow is trying to fish a little bit, or maybe Wake is trying to fish a little bit, and he like, maybe it's not his first experience with a second who is, down for a little strange. But if he would have been, how do you be honest about it, And at the end of the day, Wake isn't an ideal person for your lust. If anything, I'm gonna say it. Ephraim Winslow was significantly hotter than Willam Defoe's character, and Willam Defoe was crusty and musty and disgusting. And the only reason he wanted anything to do with him is because he was stuck on a desolate island. But you see fucking Ephraim Winslow with that mustache, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll be sawing some logs as well.
I remember when Howard was going off on Wake, and he says he hates like everything about him. Like, I hate your smell. You smell like farts. You smell like jism. You smell like, and he's just listing off everything.
You smell like foreskin. You smell like crusty, curdled foreskin. And that's the most disgusting imagery ever. But he's so down bad from stuck. Guys, he was horny for him before a month. Like a month, I'm like, you don't have the right to start acting out. Later down the line, when they're stuck there for a month, I'm like, I get it. But within the first 2 weeks, he's already kind of down bad. He just needs him to drop a pen, and he'll be on that in a heartbeat, dude. So,
well, there was a scene where they first got drunk, and we see that Winslow wakes up, he's on his back, he's fine and dandy, and then Winslow's up. And then Wake is laying down, ass up. And then shortly after that scene, we don't hear Wake, the scenes that they do have, we don't hear Wake fart that much. It's until later on.
I think you're reading into it a little bit. I did see that scene again.
Like Michael Jordan and Space Jam reach right there.
Yeah.
It's a reach and a half, I know.
Another thing people try to point out about the scene is that he's got his pants down kind of thing. But then you also have to notice...
both have their pants down.
But also both chamber pots are full. So they like dead of night, drunk as fuck.
They were shitting their brains out.
They're shitting their brains out, dude. All they've had is rum and lobster. Like, come on.
Yeah, he woke up and he was ready to go take a shit and the chamber pots were full.
Well, I don't think they have a douche on hand, so I think that's as clean as they can get.
I don't think they went that far.
Takes it to one of the most genuinely funny scenes in the movie where he tries to throw out the chamber pots and the wind picks up. And the way the gulls start squawking after that, it sounds like they're laughing at him.
Yeah, they're laughing at him. Again, another scene that's like comedic. You're just like, what the fuck? All this craziness, all this banter, and then you have that scene that's out of nowhere.
Is there anything you'd like to share with the class, Kayla?
How aware of you guys of the work of Junji Ito?
I love Junji
Okay.
Ito.
The Lighthouse.
It was made for me.
No, but it's just like the Lighthouse here reminds me of the Lighthouse in Uzumaki, like the hypnotic effect and like the complete drawl and then like the cosmic horror aspect. Just thematically, I think it's really
Similar.
like it's an interesting parallel. And then I like all the parallels to other literature this movie has and different concepts because it's like the fact that it leads into the Greek tragedy and then it referenced Greek mythology a lot.
Yeah, the gist about Prometheus was pretty obvious, but I had to like learn about like what exactly Proteus is to learn the relevance of it. Because they said Proteus will tell you your future of how you die when he gets captured, and Willem Dafoe curses him as he's being buried alive, ergo when he's been captured.
I think this film also, or not this film, but we need to give like the credit. The director of this film, fucking just how he wrote this film and all the information he put into it, everything he wrote about it. I think just shows his how fucking great he is. You know, he's probably gonna be one of the best as he gets older and older.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of him, which I'm very happy for.
Papa Nasty, you said this is a dark comedy. Tell me about it. What were the funniest scenes in this movie?
Okay. Here we go.
This is where the notes come out.
So you want me to go from the beginning, like comedy
Sure.
scenes that I was writing down. Okay, so obviously I think the first scene it's a lot of what the fuck and just like kind of just random scenes. I thought that was humorous. Was like the beginning. Obviously we have the intro where it's like they're looking out upon the, you know, that we're seeing them. They're just looking at us. We're like, what the fuck? Defoe has his pipe backwards. I thought that was kind of like, it was just a weird scene.
Staring at the camera. I love that shot.
Yeah, staring at the camera. They're looking at us like, okay, this is weird. Like, it was like the longest stare down ever. Like,
It was
I
like a
remember
good
watching it being
10-second shot, I think. And 10 seconds,
Yeah,
like film-wise, is pretty long.
I remember thinking like, what the fuck? What's going on? Like, did I fuck up here? Like, they're just looking at me. It was eerie, right? It was also kind of funny.
The first fart scene. The first fart scene is funny.
The first fart scene where he's like, just, you know, hey, yeah, do your duties and don't forget to, and just that.
Pissing in there right in front of him, too. He's just blocked by the beam in the center of the frame.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're like,
dick
what the
out,
fuck is
pissing.
going on here? And then you hear him rip
He's
ass. And you're
shameless
like,
about it. He's just pissing right in front of him.
and you're like, okay, this movie's gonna have farts in it. I haven't seen a movie with farts in it in a while. That wasn't an Eddie Murphy movie, so damn.
Fart scenes in a movie. You got me captivated. The scene where he's pulling out like the cushions to get the statue that he's looking for something.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny because it looked like pubic hair. I don't know what
I
that
think it was
I don't
pubic
know.
hair.
It looked like pubic hair, and I was like, "That's not cotton. What is that?" Like that was a weird. That was a weird scene. It was so yeah. What the fuck? But yeah, it was long. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like a mermaid out of all things. Okay, that was interesting. And then we get to like they're talking about the duties when William Dafoe's character is like tripping balls at the light. And he's like, my beauty, and he's like all shit faced. And like, what are the responsibilities? You can't be drinking, and he's just blasted on top of the lighthouse naked. I was like, dude, what is going on?
No,
here?
I'm literally imagining the direct.
Is he really drinking, or is he just drunk off that light power?
Dude,
Yeah,
no,
right?
he genuinely is
Yeah.
pouring himself a drink. He's sipping out of a cup.
Oh yeah, he's sipping that cup. He's toasting.
But like I said, like, can we trust what we're seeing in this movie half the time?
You're not wrong.
It's not to say, but it's like it's still what the fuck, you know? It's
Dude, no,
so many
Papa
what the
Nasty.
fucks.
The funny thing is, too, I'm like, I can't imagine Robert Eggers is like sitting there filming. You know, he's the director watching this get filmed. He's not like, what a beautiful piece of art. That's incredible. He probably is in your position. He's probably laughing his ass off. He's like, oh my God, these people are going to know what the fuck this is. This is going to be so great. They're going to throw them for a loop big time.
Chetos 3, the Chetanine.
I know. Literally, I was trying to explain this movie to Oscar, and I was like, basically, it's like Chetos with a bigger budget. With a bigger budget. Yeah. Like quick backstory. One of our buddies made a movie called Chetos, and it was a art piece. It was all in black and white. It's just
Complete
crazy.
nonsense.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Anyways, good piece of work. One day we'll post it on his behalf, and then he'll finally be our friend again. Anyways, if you're out there somewhere, we miss you. Back to it. I
Love
want to
you
hear those
too.
Those dark comedy vibes.
We get Winslow constantly pleasuring himself. Or what was he saying?
Self-abuse.
Abusing himself in the shed house.
The supply shed.
The supply shed. Which is ironic because that's where... So, that's where Wake would be doing himself in the lighthouse, doing his self-abuse. But they're both doing it at the same time. And I didn't catch that till about the fourth time. I'm like, why are they both doing it at the same time? And he knows they both see each other, or they both kind of know what each other's doing. And it's like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, because he comes out of the shed, and then
Wake's in the lighthouse watching sometimes.
and then Wake comes out on the balcony, and then Wake has the audacity to potentially write it in his book.
Manager privilege, do as I say, not do as I do.
That's true. Yeah, my manager hates it when I masturbate in the middle of the fucking lobby. I'm like, well, you do it all the time. Oh, well,
You've been given to self-abuse in the walk-in.
Yeah, put that cock away.
Not the walk-in. Oh, no. That's awesome. If I was 15 years old, there's a chance. But luckily, I'm 28. Thank God.
Yeah. Mike's told me stuff has happened upstairs.
Oh, boy. All right. We don't talk about it. The seagull is actually pretty funny. I think it's the seagull harassing him is pretty fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Again, it's like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? What does he do instead of helping out the one seagull? Because the seagull, in that scene...
He kills the other one.
It's stuck. The seagull's
pisses him off.
It's like...
Just laughing at him.
Looking up at him. No, he's like, help me out. And the other seagull shows up, scares them, and he's like, oh, what the fucking... And like, fucking... squeaks at him, and what's he do instead of helping out the other one? He fucking just grabs it and kills it. It's like, what the shit?
And it also drags on very long, and it becomes funny. The way he's just whacking it, and blood is splattering all over the cistern.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
see,
my
there
God.
it is.
Yeah, you're like,
dark comedy. Like, I think you really did get it on the head here. As much as we want to think, wow, psychological horror film.
I want a steak. I want a fucking steak. I want a bloody rare steak. I mean, if I had a steak, I would fuck it.
If I had a steak,
if I had a steak,
I'd fuck it. And he's like saying it, and then Wake is all like, oh, he puts his head down, like, oh, how could you say such a thing?
You're fond of me, lobster. Say it. Say it.
I don't have to say nothing.
That scene too was just like, oh, what the fuck? Like,
that was probably the funniest part. The funniest part in the movie for me is Thomas Wake standing up and he's cursing him, goes on for like a whole last minute saying the craziest things to him, and he's like,
kind of gets uncomfortable for a second because of the camera angle, the lighting, his big eyes, he's not blinking.
Yeah, and then he's like, have it your way. I like you, lobster. And you're like, all right. And I don't know, it's like something about how
whiplash.
Yeah,
the mood whiplash. It goes from funny. It goes from funny about him like saying he wants to fuck a steak to Wake being offended that he doesn't like his cooking to then Wake intensely cursing him and then back to being funny because he was like, "Have it your way."
Have it your way. Burger King, baby. Whopper, Junior Whopper. Anyways,
and then also speaking of funny parts, the part where Howard thinks he's got him figured out, and he's like. I broke the mermaid. I am free from your designs. And he starts clapping and laughing hysterically.
Yeah. And as soon as
I was like, that guy is literally fucking lost his mind. At that point, as soon as
Pattenson starts getting drunk, that's when I started. I couldn't help it but laugh when he's doing his chores really, really fast while he's super drunk. I was laughing so hard. I was like, that's it right there. He's like shoveling coal with one hand. He's not doing anything. Oh my God. That was so good. And he's just like fucking chugging. Oh my God. No, there was a scene in the movie where they're under the table because they were drinking so much. And Papa Nasty sent me he sent me the picture and he's like, we have to get this drunk once in our life. And I was like, yeah, maybe at like our
under
fucking
the table.
Yeah, at our bachelor party, maybe. He's like, both of our bachelor parties.
Like, there's that scene where, like, after they're shipwrecked on the island, they're just getting fucking skunk drunk. When they're just both just underneath the table, looking at each other, laughing, drinking, like, the last bottles of whiskey or rum or whatever the fuck it is. It was such an awesome scene. I'm like, I have to take a picture of this.
No,
It
you took
said
a. That's funny. He didn't go. He did not find the picture on Google. He watched the movie, got to the part, took a picture on his phone, and sent it to me. And he's like, "Why don't we get drunk like this?" I'm like, "Well, I don't want to die. I mean, you want some turpentine and honey, baby? Let's go."
Just tell
You're
me
not
like
dead.
his lobster. Just tell me like his lobster, and I'll be good.
Yeah, let's go to the lighthouse, guys. Let's get weird.
Dude, we're gonna make a bar called the Lighthouse.
When you were talking about him getting drunk while he's working, shoveling the coal, you reminded me of something I also noticed. During his descent into madness, his declining quality in work, earlier on when he would be bringing coal into the lighthouse, he would, have it covered. But then, as time went on, he clearly stopped giving a shit, and we see him carrying the coal uncovered in the wheelbarrow in the rain.
That's a good point. Thank you. Okay, that actually
his
leads.
declining work quality as he's losing his fucking mind.
But also, would it have helped if they took turns?
You hear me second, you do as I tell you. That be in your manual as well.
That be in your manual as well. God damn, you're
He
absolutely
basically
right.
hit him with even though it's our job to share duties, the final line is you have to do what your boss tells you to do, or what your senior tells you.
The most random thing in the world I'm thinking about right now is, oh my fucking God. Okay, so you want to sit here and think, wow, he has horrible labor laws. At the end of the day, there's no OSHA. It's 1890.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist. I'm looking at it right now because I was like, oh, when were child labor laws enacted? 1938.
1900s?
1938, the Federal Labor Law provisions of the Fair Labor Standard Act of 1938. So you're telling me, no, bro, they were treated like shit. He was his superior. He wasn't just like, oh, my boss is kind of mean. No, his boss was allowed to treat him like garbage.
Yep.
That's crazy, dude. Dude, Robert Eggers, he did his fucking research. Dude's a history buff and a half.
I feel like a lot of filmmakers are in a way.
Yeah.
I wanted us to discuss the various levels of gaslighting or narrative contradictions we see between Wake and Winslow/Howard over the course of the film.
I do want to call it gaslight because after watching this movie, I was like, bruh, we could have called this the gaslight house.
Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, so one that the gaslighting pretty much starts on very, very early on in the movie, but I'll probably be going all over the place because I'll just go to them as they come to my mind.
Okay, the first one that comes to me when we talk about gaslighting is you didn't scrub the floors. I scrubbed the floors.
Yeah. And then now that we've discussed it a second ago, we brought it up and I said, after seeing him do all his duties, we never once actually saw him clean the quarters like he was told. He said, cleaning the quarters is part of your duties. We've seen him shovel coal. We've seen him work outside. We've seen him paint the lighthouse, but we never actually see him clean the fucking house.
Think about it. Everything he does is for the lighthouse. He doesn't give a shit
Everything
about
he
his
does
living
is
quarters.
outside so we could see the lighthouse.
That's a good point. I like where you're going with this.
Here we go.
And then I was thinking of other contradictions. There's Wake's backstory. He says he hurt his leg after trying to escape from a hospital because he was banging all the nuns or something.
Yeah.
And then later he says he lost his leg while he was on a
Scurvy.
ship infested with scurvy. Yeah. And then he even calls him out. He's like, I thought you said you lost your leg with the nuns. He's like, you must have misheard me.
And then you want the third one of that trifecta? Remember when they get super drunk and they're doing their little jigs? And he said my leg was locked because of scurvy. And Willam Defoe is dancing his ass off, kicking his legs all willy-nilly.
I only saw him kicking one leg actually.
Oh, okay. Then thank you for fixing that for me because in my brain,
Yeah, no, I was paying attention to that scene. When he dances when they're drunk, he's skipping one leg and standing on the other one.
But he's still moving. He's still bouncing on it. He's still doing...
He can walk. He's just not capable of any intensive labor with it. That's why he says he can't sail with it.
So he was struggling with the light, just going up the stairs of a lighthouse, but you're bouncing up and down, dancing, and moving around. And then
When you're
we had that
drunk, you
scene
don't
too.
give a shit.
Oh, come on, Apes. And then in that scene where he's running the last scene where he's
Why do
running
you think drunk people wake up with injuries and they're like, what the hell happened to me?
If you say the last scene where he's running with the axe, you see him running and his other leg is goofy. You can
yeah,
visibly
that's
see it.
Speaking of gaslighting, he says that Winslow was chasing him with the axe the entire time.
Yup.
No, the ending when he's running at him, not the scene where last scene where he kills him. He's running at him. You don't get, but it's an upper shot. You don't see him limping.
But that's a good point. It kind of gives a
the
little
scene
credit
right before
to,
the scene right before that I mentioned. You know, when Howard's trying to escape on the dory, and then Wake shows up and breaks it with the axe. And then, like, immediately after that, after they defuse the situation and he calms down, he says that Winslow was the one, or Howard was the one chasing him with the axe and destroyed the boat.
No. The scene, like the end scene.
Oh no, I know what scene you're talking about. I'm talking about like the overall contradictions we see in general.
Gotcha.
So, well, hold up. I want to take a step back real quick. The end scene that you're talking about is he buries him in the dirt, and then after he buries him in the dirt, he comes into the cabin and kind of attacks him one more time before Winslow,
and he
Howard,
lunges at him.
Pattenson kills him with an axe, right? Papa Nasty, is that the one you're talking about?
Wake attempts to kill him, and then Howard disarms him and then kills him.
Doesn't this lean some merit to the previous assertion that that was a ghost, that he wasn't real? He died when he got buried.
Remember Papa Nasty I mentioned earlier? When he comes in, he's not covered in dirt.
That was the weirdest part.
True. He was clean.
He was clean as a whistle.
He was cleaner than a sperm whale's pecker.
Yeah, that was another like weird one. I'm like, okay, like the random. That was a random boarding on the line of homosexuality, like him hinting at him. Like it was a very weird analogy to give.
You're gonna pry every nail out of every hole, and you're gonna suck it clean like a sperm whale's pecker.
Yeah,
gentlemen.
What? What
Gentlemen,
did you say, Defoe?
Yes.
Gentlemen, do you have any finishing thoughts on the Lighthouse 2019? Because I feel like we've done a phenomenal job of delving into it. This is the perfect episode for this movie because it was rambunctious, it was random. We have no idea what's going on because this movie was exactly that. And we gave every piece of information we physically could that we learned about this movie. Do you have any final thoughts on the film before we wrap this up?
I want to follow maybe possibly the idea, aside from like every other like a narrative argument or theory, Wake might have been onto something when he suggested that Tommy Howard was always crazy since he set foot on that island.
I respect that. Okay. I like it.
The Winslow mermaid situation where he is obsessed with this mermaid, I thought that maybe symbolized that it was him struggling with his sexuality.
Yeah, repressed sexuality.
Naturally.
Because think about it, if you're going to fantasize about a girl, you're going to fantasize about a girl. You're not going to fantasize about a mermaid. I've never fantasized about banging a mermaid.
You watch your goddamn mouth. You ever watch The Little Mermaid? Jesus Christ, Ariel.
She's 15.
You tell me really quick what you're going to be fantasizing about.
Mr. West, you're out of control. But I thought that symbolized...
I want to touch on your point, Papa Nasty. I remember, the scene where he's having sex with the mermaid, it keeps cutting to him thinking about Winslow. Like, he keeps seeing the back of Winslow's head while he's fantasizing fucking the mermaid. And as he does that, he keeps like shaking his head like he can't get it out of his head.
Wait, let me touch on. Hold up. I want to touch on your point really quick. You mentioned having sex with the mermaid. First of all, it's a mermaid. It's not a siren, and so we get shown a mermaid vagina. Okay, where did they come up with that idea? They actually did research. They looked at sharks, labia, and vagina, so that way they can give you an accurate depiction of what a mermaid vagina would look like. You're welcome. And as you were, gentlemen.
So I thought that like maybe symbolized that the concept of a woman, like he gets the upper part, he gets the boobs, he gets the face, but that it's so foreign to him, it might as well be a mermaid. That's why when he's touching that mermaid, and he's touching her gills, and he goes down below, and he sees her fishtail. He's freaking out, and he's running away from it. And she's laughing at him, or she's screaming. And what's he do? He runs to Wake, the scene where he and then multiple
Quit
scenes
your
he's
hollering.
masturbating. He's masturbating to the mermaid, and then towards the end when he's killing Wake, turns into a mermaid briefly. Like when he's killing him, you see that scene where Wake is at one point he has like the
Coral and shit on
starfish
him,
his,
barnacles.
Yeah, he has the barnacles. He has the starfish on his tits. He has the mermaid leg. I just thought maybe that was maybe him actually wanting the mermaid to be Wake, but the female anatomy might as well be a mermaid because it was so foreign to him. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. I remember reading about it, and it makes sense.
That makes sense.
Well, I guess we should wrap it up.
We did a good job, though. I feel like
Hey.
okay, first of all, vouchers, so you know, we did this movie once, and I'm going to keep that audio because maybe one day we'll put it out. But do you guys think we did better than last time?
Definitely. And I think it also goes into what you two were saying about it the first time, where like there's so much we could talk about in this movie. Like we could keep going and going, and clearly we are about to.
We're about to. Yeah, exactly. That's why I had to cut it off at some point because there's so many interpretations, there's so many themes. The thing is that I believe that multiple interpretations of this movie exist at the exact same time. I think Robert Eggers intended to, as when the audience leaves, they could have among 5 different interpretations of this movie. I genuinely believe he intended that, and that he sprinkled everything in so you never could actually figure it out, and you're not meant to. And then he's sitting up there on his little tower, on his little lighthouse, and he's like, I'm never going to tell you what this movie is about. And then he turns around and starts jerking off to the light while we're over there beating off in the shed trying to figure it out. So fuck you, Robert. I'm going to say that right now. Fuck you, Robert Eggers. You piece
Fuck
of
you,
shit.
Robert.
I hate you. I'm going to beat your ass if I ever meet you.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yes.
I'll fight
love
him.
it.
I'll fight him because I'm so disappointed that he did this to us.
Yes. No,
Nonetheless,
I was when you were pooping, I was telling him the intern and Abel Lincoln how great a director he is, and I mean, dude, there's just so many, like you said, interpretations. How wild this film is, and so many ways we can go down it. I just hats off to this guy, and hats off to you, Abel, for picking this. Because at first I thought you were crazy.
So, would you vouch for me?
I vouch for you.
I vouch for you. God damn it. Fuck you. First watch,
All right,
I didn't
watch
want to
Mary
vouch for
kill.
you. No, first watch, I didn't want to vouch for you. And then once we did the research, I vouched for you. And also,
You
I
went
think,
mad for the lights. It took over
Yes.
you.
Papa Nasty, you're in the same boat, right? First watch, you're like, what the fuck? But you did the research, and
Yeah.
then you're like, God damn it, I vouch for you.
I called you laughing. I'm like, dude, what the fuck did Abel put us up to watch? Like, fucking Abel, I was just so funny and absurd. And then we watched it. I'm like, God damn, that was good. Like, okay, because usually going into watching a film, I'll watch it completely sober and not drink anything, take my notes, do it again, and I'll drink it, have a few drinks, watch with Chica for the second time, and then play with some jokes, look at some themes, and then it'll be broken down. I'll break it down scene by scene. I think it's funny or whatever. But no, this was a fun movie to rewatch.
Okay,
Surprisingly.
so Papa Nasty, you vouch. I vouch. Intern, Kayla, do you vouch?
I vouch.
Nice. All right. We even got the intern unpaid. So that wasn't even, yeah, I don't know. That was great. You were trying to lean into it, Abel, but I cut you off with some ramble, but you were going to go for it.
But Papa Nasty has one more thing to add.
Oh, I would even go as far as to marry this film.
Definitely.
That's how much I actually did like it.
After it took us 2 weeks to fucking do this properly, I think I want to lean on a Mary. I think the last time we gave it a watch, but man, dude, every time you look into this film, you learn more about it, and that's the most absurd shit in the world. And so I will give this movie a Mary.
And there you have it, folks.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What about you, bud?
I would marry this film. If I had this film, I would fuck it.
Yes.
Good job.
Yes.
All right, and then now
This
it's
is
up to the
fucking great.
intern. All right, so now let's see. No, don't feel pressured. You heard what we said. Don't feel pressured.
I'm not paid enough to give this opinion.
Oh, okay. Understandable. All right. Yeah. All right. I'll take her to
Deducted
dinner
from your
tonight.
wages.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking.
Eric, she's not paid enough
You're not paid enough.
to,
Absolutely not paid
to
enough.
give a critique.
Well, you gotta have an opinion. Do you think that God came down from heaven and stopped those motherfucking bullets?
No, do you
only-
think do you think God came down from heaven and stopped that motherfucking opinion? Do you think that's what happened?
What the fuck?
All right. Anyways, Pulp Fiction we're absolutely doing at some point, and when we do, Abel will truly be the human soundboard.
I'll just like recap the entire script word for word.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, word for word. I can't wait for that day. Vouchers. What a phenomenal episode. I'm so glad we were able to do this. The incoherency of it all is the most important part because this is the Lighthouse, but
It captures the film perfectly.
we have some more stuff cooking for you. Don't you think that we do not? Because Papa Nasty, you're next. You already know what you want to do for the next one.
Yes, gentlemen and intern lady. Next film will be Kung Pao, Enter of the Fist, and we're gonna watch it. And you're gonna give me your opinion, but it is a terrible movie, but it's hilarious and it's something that you need to rewatch. Or it's early 2000s, bad CGI, but it is a hidden gem that I think you guys will love.
Considering you're starting this with Kung Pao, Enter the Fist, Abraham Lincoln, do you think that we should lean into bad movies that we genuinely think are good movies?
Possibly. I was thinking of doing Tenet.
Is that renowned as such, or?
A lot of people ragged on it because they didn't get it. Like the whole time inversion concept went over their head and they're like, this movie makes no fucking sense.
I think it counts. Okay, then cool. Then let's throw that in there too.
It's considered Nolan's weakest film.
That was
I
a
liked
mindfuck of a movie. We'll have to talk more about it, but I did like the movie. And we get another chance to talk about Robert Pattinson, so let's go. But Kung Pao, I don't even know what to expect. I'm going to give you guys a little Easter egg. I looked this movie up. By critic score, 13% maybe, but audience score is almost 70%. And so I'm like, what the fuck was going on in this movie? So I'm looking forward to that one.
It made people laugh.
But it sounds like that's what we're leaning into then, guys, for the next trilogy of them is we'll do maybe some bad movies that we think are good. Guys, right now, not only are we available on Spotify, but you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on our iHeartRadio, on Amazon. You can find us on Apple Music, and one other one that I don't remember, but
Down the street by our local corner store.
yeah, exactly. You look under your bed. You maybe you'll find Vouch for Me right there. Who knows? But Vouchers, thank you so much for sitting and listening to us. We do appreciate you. Our rambling, our banter, chaos of a movie we did today, The Lighthouse. We're excited for next week, and thank you guys so much for stopping in. We appreciate you.
Thank you. And good night.
Thank you. We love you.
Thank you and good night. That was Saturday Night Live, but actually it's a Tuesday. Have a good night, guys. Thank you so much. Fairly well. Intern, you have one last thing to say.
Goodbye.